6 o'clock.
It is 6 o'clock. We are going to call the meeting to order. First item of business is please put your cell phones on mute if you haven't already done that. I would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin Nation. And our first motion is approval of the agenda, moved by Bill Everett, seconded by Danny Meeks, that the agenda for the council meeting held June 13th, 2023 be approved as, are there amendments, Kathy?
Yes, there are, Madam Mayor. Under committee, other reports and minutes, number F, District 4 Recreation Committee. And that's it, Madam Mayor.
Okay. So accept the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Hey, we have a special job to do, and that is the appointment of a new councillor. Kathy?
So Duncan is to read his declaration.
Use the microphone.
I, Duncan McGregor, have been elected or appointed to the office of Councillor, Ward 3, OSO, in the municipality of Central Frontenac. Do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III. And I make the solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as made under oath.
Perfect. Okay, can you please just sign the declaration? Okay, and on to the official signing. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Congratulations, Duncan, and welcome to the table. And in order to really make it official, we have a motion moved by Bill Everett, second by Danny Meeks, that bylaw 2023-31, being a bylaw to provide for the appointment of Duncan McGregor to the office of councillor, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 13th day of June 2023. Questions, comments? All those in favor? Carried. It's now official. All right. Is there any disclosure pecuniary interest by any member of council on any item on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we'll note that in the minutes. Moved by Danny Meeks, seconded by Bill Everett, that the minutes of the regular meeting held May 23rd, 2023, and the special meeting held May 31st, 2023, be approved as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, Mayor's remarks. One thing I want to ask council is the question about, do we want a float in the Canada Day Parade? We have to respond to Jody. I told her I would mention it tonight to see if people are interested in doing that. The roads department has a trailer and the truck that they will get ready for us if we want to do that. How many people plan on attending? So there's 3, 4, maybe 5 6 of us. Okay, so we'll get a float. And if anybody else who doesn't know yet. District 2 is coming, good. Okay. More floats, the better. Yeah. Good. Okay, so I'll let Jody know that we should go ahead. All right. I think that's it. Deputy Mayor Smith, do you have anything to add?
Nothing at this time, ma'am.
One other thing, I went to the La Pointe Memorial Tournament in Parham, and the ball games were amazing. people who don't normally play ball, and they were running like crazy. The only issue was the sand kept blowing every time they would go around the bases, but everybody was having a great time, and it was well attended. So it was well worth it. And apparently there's a baseball game happening this Saturday with District 3 Rec is trying to get teams together to have a fun game as well. So baseball is alive and well in our area. So that's a good thing. All right, no deferred items, and we are at staff reports. And our first is construction details report. Andy? Looks like you've been busy for May. I have a motion moved by Danny Meek, seconded by Bill Everett, that council received the construction details report, May 2023, for information. Any questions or comments to Andy? Looks like our numbers are going up steadily. And you're not without work.
Nope, there's lots of work and yeah, it's comparable to last year.
Yes. Okay. All right. All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Next is Development Services LED lighting retrofit. I have a motion moved by Danny Meek, seconded by Bill Everett. Whereas request for proposal RFP FA 2023-02 LED lighting retrofit to upgrade existing light fixtures at various facilities was posted on May 8th, 2023 and closed on June 6th, 2023. And whereas 2 proposals were received from proponents for the lighting upgrades, and staff are recommending to council that it accept the proposal from RW Electrical as the successful bidder. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council approve the recommendation of staff and award the proposal for lighting upgrades to RW Electric in the amount of $103,942.62, excluding HST. And that council approve the amount exceeding the budgeted amount estimated at $5,772 due to the net cost of $105,772 after accounting for the non-recoverable HST be part of the year-end surplus or deficit. And that staff be authorized to apply for the Save on Energy retrofit program, initially estimated at $9,280, and that any funds received be applied to reduce the net cost of this project. And further, that the manager of development services be authorized to issue a purchase order for the work, and that the mayor and CAO clerk be authorized to sign the contract on behalf of the township. Questions or comments? Philip? Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The only question I had was the criteria that we used to evaluate the proposals. Was that part of the RFP when it was released?
Yes, it was. When I released it, I wasn't aware of the local preference not being part of our procurement policy.
So yeah, it just, if it was part of the RFP and now we've changed the criteria after the release of the RFP, just doesn't seem right that we're changing the criteria after the fact, but.
Nikki and then Dan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Andy, are the lights that we're going to be installing going to be enclosed? A question that was brought up by the people playing pickleball in Piccadilly was they're very careful not to hit the lights because they're not completely enclosed. So it was just a question.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Gowdy. The lights in the halls did not have guards, but it's probably not too late to have that added if you feel it's necessary.
Maybe in Piccadilly, because we have allowed them to play pickleball there and there is a turnout every Thursday night there. It might be an idea.
I'll see what I can do.
Dan?
On your decision, Andy, they ranked higher on the point system and being local for $638. They do pay taxes in the township, town and country. Just wonder what your thoughts were on that.
Through you, Madam Mayor, it was a very, very difficult recommendation to make. Yeah, the prices were, less than 1%. They're very close in all respects. So it wasn't until I did the final review with the treasurer that I realized that our procurement policy said that the local preference was only to be used if there was a tie. Originally, I had Town and Country as my recommendation, and I changed it to RW after reading the procurement policy.
So it always goes to the lower bidder, no matter.
With an RFP, it goes by the rated criteria. If it was a request for quotation or request for tender, 99% of the time it would just be based on price.
I see.
Council can make the decision to go with either of them since they're this close. But I think what Andy is saying, because we put the scoring in and had to change it, that's the result and why he is following the procedure now. But again, if you want to put weight into somebody local and you chose to make that your decision, you can do that. Susan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question, Andy, plan and schedule in the rating. I see that Town and Country got 3.4 and RW Electric 10. What was the reason for that?
RW's schedule was roughly 3 months and Town and Country's was around 8 months for completion.
Okay, thank you.
Any idea of the savings per month you getting from
this?
Just approximate.
I think it was 6,000 per year. Yeah, 6,000 per year was the estimate. So I guess that would be $500 a month.
Okay, Duncan.
The Save on Energy retrofit program, it says there may be further incentives. Is this a guaranteed program that was factored into the decision?
When I issued the RFP, I was hoping the contractors would take it upon themselves to apply for that incentive as part of the RFP, but neither one of them did. So in order to get that savings, an energy audit has to be completed by an energy auditor, has to verify the lights that we have and the lights that are being installed to determine how much savings there would be.
And is that included in the price?
No, that would have to be done by township staff.
Okay, any other questions? Nikki?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to follow up on Duncan's question. So if township staff does it, there's not really any additional cost to this program because you're already budgeted to do that within your job.
Yeah, yes, correct. We would make time to fill out the applications and then we would have to wait for the energy auditor to verify the lighting. And then they would tell us how much we qualify for a grant.
Lynn and then Cindy?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can you just clarify with the amount that we're spending, 103? Yeah. Is that all exterior and interior lights? Or what will we have all LED lights in this township then?
That will be interior lighting in community halls, public works garages, the office, the libraries, and the fire halls.
And the rinks?
The rinks were not included in this.
What about the Kennebec Park?
No,
And the street lights aren't included.
no. Originally I had more lighting included, but after getting budget numbers, I figured it was going to go over, so I scaled it back before we put the RFP out.
Could be phase 2.
Yep.
Cindy?
So Andy's kind of answered my question. My question was what the scope of work was going to be, where it was, what you were doing exactly with all this. Because I know this hall won't need it, correct? Because it's just been redone.
It was included. There's still some other lighting, but yeah, this hall doesn't have a lot of lighting that needs to be changed.
And Susan?
Save me doing the math. Thank you, Madam Mayor. How much over budget will the Town and Country quote be?
There's only $637 difference.
So it'll be, okay, with the HST on top too, right? Okay.
Just for our information.
Oh, sorry.
We get our GS or HST
is a
back
percentage of our HST. back, yes.
percentage. Dan?
Is there a timing schedule, Andy, on the energy retrofit program for the energy saving?
I haven't contacted them yet, but I'm guessing it would probably be a month or so before anybody could do a energy audit.
But there's no real time zone, like scheduling to get it done before like 2023 or?
I was hoping to have everything done before the end of 2023, but applying for it's possible, but applying for that retrofit grant will extend the timeline and possibly into 2024.
I see.
Bill?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. $6,000 a year energy savings divided by $104,000. We're covering costs over 14 years. What is the life expectancy of these LED systems?
The majority of the lights are rated for about 50,000 hours. So it really depends how often they're used.
Okay, what do we want to do here? The recommendation is based on the assessment of the 2 bids, and that is for RW Electric. Let me call the question then. I read the whole motion. All those in favor of RW Electric for $103,942.62 excluding HST. Show of hands. All those in favor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Motion's carried. Unfortunately, our procedural bylaw doesn't give priority to locals and that our procurement, sorry. And that may be something that we want to put into our procurement bylaw down the road. That if it's within so many hundreds of dollars, that we look at making it a local decision. All right. Next is Public Works. We have the activity report. Nobody's here from Public Works, so moved by Bill Everett, seconded by Danny Meeks, that council received the Public Works activity report as prepared by the Public Works manager dated June 13th, 2023 for information. Discussion. Yes, Nikki.
I have a couple of questions. I'll just ask them so that they're in the minutes.
Yeah.
So I was glad to see the grass cutters out late last week. And I just wanted to question when the berms would be taken from the guardrails. It had been brought up in previous meetings because there's quite a berm at a lot of the guardrails along 38 Highway. And I also just wanted to state that I was kind of shocked in the shape of 38 after the crack sealing. Now that we have it done, our section of 38 doesn't look all that great and it doesn't drive all that great. So it was just shocking to me, the deterioration in the road.
That is one thing that the crack ceiling does. It really shows you how bad of a situation we are in. Okay, any other questions or comments? Kathy will pass that along to Tyson. Cindy.
So my question for Tyson, I'm not sure where he is tonight, is when are we getting the streets swept? Usually they're done before May 2/4 weekend and they're still not done in the village. That's my first question.
Okay.
We have the contractor cutting grass in the park, but they're not cutting the grass where the sign says that is part of the park, because I guess technically no, they're not. They're not cutting the grass there. I cut the grass there. So they need to come and maybe, if we hire a contractor and they're going to nitpick over something that small, like it's a section, like the middle of here sort of thing. And if they're, I don't know, we should really consider somebody if they're not going to do the job when they're asked to do it.
Maybe they think if it's being cut, that it's not part of their contract.
Well, no, they were asked to cut it and they said that it wasn't part of their contract.
Okay, we can have Tyson
Where's
look at
that?
that. Sure, Lynn.
I had a conversation with Tyson at the end of last week, and it has, I pointed it out to them that was something they should be doing, or they should move the sign if they're not going to cut the grass there, because it just looks awful as the entrance. And then the Public Works agreed, and they've added it to the contract, and starting this week, it's going to get done.
Okay,
And they're actually making adjustments that next year it will be in the mapping that shows it needs to be done moving forward.
so it's partly our own mistake.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well, Cindy did it first.
good for you. Thank you, Cindy. That's good volunteer work. All right. No other questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion? Carried. All right. Now, resurfacing of the Westport Road, moved by Bill Everett, seconded by Danny Meeks. Whereas on May 2nd, 2023, request for tender, Public Works 2023-13 was released for the procurement of a contractor for the resurfacing of Westport Road with a closing date of May 16th, 2023. And whereas one bid was received, the Public Works Manager has reviewed the bids and has evaluated according to the criteria outlined in the tender and is recommending to award Cranes Construction as the successful contractor. And whereas the Public Works Manager has negotiated with Cranes Construction to remove and reduce certain items in the tender in order to reduce the bid price and stay closer to the budget. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council award Cranes as the successful bidder in the amount of $768,987,000, excluding HST, and that council approve the amount exceeding the budgeted amount of $19,186 due to the net costs of $782,521 after adding the non-recoverable HST. Be part of the year-end surplus or deficit, and that the Public Works be authorized to issue a purchase order for the work, and further that the mayor and CAO clerk be authorized to sign the construction contract on behalf of the township. Discussion. Nikki.
So my two questions are, what was removed, what items were removed out of the tender to bring the price further down? And what is the anticipated start date for this project? I'm hoping that it's not October, because tar and chip, it does not adhere well in October to the road, and we might end up with a mess.
Okay. Duncan?
So just following up, Councillor Gowdy's comments, I wondered if the items removed from the tender were going to affect the quality of the work or the lifespan of the road.
Okay, we'll find out those answers, and Kathy will send those out. I would hope not. Otherwise, we're spending a lot of money to not have some essentials done. Okay, any other questions or comments? Lynn?
It says here that the work must be completed no later than September 1st.
Okay,
It's on page 38, halfway down.
good. So you can strike that one.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Carried. Okay. Next, we have resurfacing of the Arden Road. Moved by Bill Everett, second by Danny Meeks. Whereas on May 2nd, 2023, Central Frontenac Public Works released the request for tender PW 2023-14 for the procurement of a contractor for the resurfacing of Arden Road with a closing date of May 16th, 2023. And whereas 3 bids were received, the Public Works Manager has reviewed the bids and has evaluated according to the criteria outlined in the tender and is recommending to award Gemmell Sand and Gravel as the successful contractor. And whereas the Public Works Manager has removed certain items in the tender in order to reduce the bid price and stay close to the budget. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Council award Gemmell Sand and Gravel Limited as the successful bidder in the amount of $586,100 excluding HST. And the Council approved that the amount exceeding the budget amount of $25,498 due to the net cost of $596,415 after adding the non-recoverable HST be part of the year-end surplus or deficit. And that the Public Works Manager be authorized to issue a purchase order for the work. And further, that the mayor and CAO clerk be authorized to sign the construction contract on behalf of the township. I guess the new phrase is looking whether we've got a surplus or deficit in order to get these jobs done. Philip.
So similar to our last motion, just wondering what was removed from this this tender, and because we had multiple bidders in this one, would it have resulted in a different bidder being the lowest bidder?
I think often what is done is they take the lowest bidder and then they try to negotiate with them what can be taken out in order to still.
Well, I understand that, but I mean that the bids were relatively close, the two of them. So if they were fairly taking items off, would the other bidder have still been higher than the one that was
Good
left?
question. And again, we need to look at our procedural bylaw and see if that is
It's not
something.
in- We haven't finalized the new procedural bylaw yet.
Okay.
That's coming.
How about the procurement
The
bylaw?
procurement, yes.
There, that one.
Yeah.
So it's not in there as well. That we can do this.
I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the procurement. I didn't look at that today. And I'm unfortunately, I know Tyson had appointments, but I expected he was going to be here this evening to answer these questions. So I'm not sure.
So that's something we need to look into.
Absolutely.
Philip?
I know we often negotiate on the tender, but I'm just, because they were close, if we're removing things from the tender, was the second bidder ultimately the lowest bidder?
Mhm.
Duncan and then Bill.
So I didn't realize how fast things move, and we kind of voted on that last one quick, but I'm just not comfortable voting on another motion of $586,000 without having these questions answered. So.
Okay. Bill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I see Councillor Smith's point. The $50,000 difference was after items were removed. It would be nice to know what the difference was before items were removed. Was it more? Was it less? Thank you.
So, Cindy, do you have some?
Cindy, I was off sick, so Cindy worked with Tyson on this, so she might have a couple of those answers.
Okay, Cindy.
So I don't know if this answers your question, but in the bidders list, it did outline the 3 different bids before the negotiations. So there was $655,894 from Cranes. Danford Construction was $909,267 and Gemmell's was $638,900.
But the point I'm trying to make is the negotiations happened with Gemmell's at 638 and it got reduced, and Cranes is at 655. If Cranes was given the same opportunity to reduce items, would they have ultimately come in less than Gemmell's with the reductions?
Right.
That I don't know the answer to.
Okay. Cindy.
Well, I think this is a valid, like, we really should be doing this to make it fair for everyone, but I don't think we should hold up the procedure and keep putting it off because time is ticking with these roads to get them completed. So I think going forward, this is something that we should do, is if we're going to play with the numbers before we get to this point, we need to know what the exact amounts are.
And I think the place to fix that is the procurement bylaw in order to lay out specifically how this is to work. And it could simply say you pick the lowest bidder. And then if you choose to take things out of the contract, then that's what you negotiate after, which is kind of what's happened. Nikki,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Is there any way to find out if Tyson's on his way and maybe we defer voting on these motions? We move them down in the agenda and come back to them?
well, the one's already carried, so it's just this one.
I did text both
Jason?
Steve and Tyson. I'm just wondering if maybe something happened with his grandmother. I don't know.
Because his grandmother was not well in the hospital, so. 'Cause I haven't received a text from him at all, so.
Duncan?
I don't know the formal process, but I agree with Councillor Gowdy. I'd like to defer this motion until we can get these answered.
The only concern would be that it's 2 more weeks before we deal with this again. And I think you have to trust that a public works manager isn't going to be taking things out of a contract that's going to give us a poor job. That would be my caution, is that I can't see that he would take out something that's important to have a project fail, because it's on him if it does. So, but we can defer it if that's your choice.
I was only saying to defer it to this meeting, but at the bottom, like after bylaws, to come back and see if he's arrived by then and he can answer the questions. Like I didn't mean to
Cindy's on the
defer it
phone.
to another meeting.
I think Cindy's on the phone maybe right now.
Yes.
We could take a little recess and see if we can get in touch with them to answer this question.
Yeah,
With
That
that,
seems
Or
fair.
put it at the end, just keep. Oh, yeah, you've already.
it's already been read into the record, so
Well,
we
and I,
have to deal with it.
Yes.
yes, because I have questions about the next couple of ones that Tyson's to speak to as well.
Let's take a 5-minute recess then.
Okay, so let's take a 5-minute recess and see if Cindy can get a hold of him and see if we can get any answers. Okay? 5 minutes, maybe 6. Okay, Chris, are we alive still? Okay, I think we will go back and we have to deal with, Duncan has made a motion to defer. Do we have a seconder? No seconder. Okay, then we need to vote on the motion.
Mhm.
Your choices are to carry it or defeat it or defer it. Those are the three choices. So let me give you the Coles notes again. Gemmell Sand and Gravel Limited, successful bidder in the amount of $586,100, excluding HST, and $25,498, which is the amount exceeding the budget, will be part of the year-end surplus or deficit. All those in favor? Motion's carried. And we can still ask those questions of Tyson.
Absolutely. Mhm.
All right. Next is Matthew Street sign recommendation. Moved by Danny Meek, seconded by Bill Everett, that council received the Public Works Matthew Street intersection report as prepared by the Public Works Manager dated June 13th, 2023 for information. And further, that council approved the Public Works Manager to obtain a cost estimate from the traffic engineering consultant GHD Inc. and proceed with the study from the firm if the cost is less than $2,500, not including HST. Discussion. Dan?
I think we could leave that up to Tyson to make that decision on the signs. I'm just thinking we don't need a consultant on that.
He's asking for this, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. My 2 cents worth is we used to always have a stop sign at the end of Matthew and a yield sign coming down Wing Crescent. So why not just put it back to where it was? Bill?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's my recollection, the last time we talked about this, we discussed 4 stop signs and no other signs.
Mhm.
And I thought we were pretty much all in agreement with that. So I don't understand the need for a further study.
Okay,
He probably doesn't agree.
all right. So the 4 stop signs were Matthew Street, Wing Crescent, the rail bed, both ends. So everybody stops, a 4-way stop. Okay, so if that's what you want, and we did mention that last time, then you would defeat this motion if you don't agree with hiring a consultant to do a study. Duncan?
When I was watching the May 9th council meeting that this is in regards to, the question wasn't about signage for vehicles, it was about signage for pedestrians. And I think that's what this motion is being brought back on the table for.
No, this is actually traffic engineering. More so than pedestrians. I think we settled the pedestrian sign. What did I forget what we said we were going to put, but
None.
no signs. But the stop signs were the issue. Okay, going to call the motion. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion's defeated. All right. Onwards. We have a motion about Elizabeth Street, moved by Danny Meek, seconded by Bill Everett. Whereas there is a potential for an accident at the intersection of Road 38 and the south end of Elizabeth Street due to motorists parking too close to the intersection and creating a blind spot for vehicles entering Road 38. And whereas a report was presented to council with options to mitigate this hazard on May 9th, 2023, and council required more investigation and information. And whereas the manager of emergency services and the manager of public works have investigated and agree that reflective, flexible bollards are a suitable solution. Therefore, it be it resolved that council authorize staff to purchase and install reflective, flexible bollards in an effort to stop vehicles from parking in this unsafe location. Discussion. Nikki.
Thank you. As this was my motion that I brought forward, part of my motion was about the parking as well. And I don't see in this report anywhere where we're going to change the parking bylaw to include this section of 38 so that people can be ticketed or towed for parking in the wrong the wrong spots. And that was part of my motion. I'm not against the bollards. They're just not visually appealing.
But they might stop people from parking because they'd have to knock them over to get their car in. Susan,
My question, and being directionally challenged and so forth, where would the bollards be? Are we talking the area from the telephone pole that's already marked no parking? Because I am aware that now Councillor Duncan did receive had a conversation with the operators at the Cardinal. So naturally, this is a concern to them. Where are they going to be? What parking spots are going to be removed?
I would say they're going to be removed from the entrance of Elizabeth Street north to the driveway that goes in or allows the first parking spot. There is a parking spot, there's X's, but people park right on the X's. I believe there's two spots there there's one between the X's, and then at the end of the X's, there's a spot before the entrance to Cardinal. Yeah, I looked at it the other day. Cindy.
Did we not discuss putting a turning lane in there to stop this too at some point? In our conversations, we were going to make it a turning lane so then people couldn't park there.
That was part of the discussion last meeting, but for some reason that turning lane was taken out when Road 38 was redone. Excuse me. Okay, I don't think with the traffic that comes and goes there, that was an option. I don't know. We'll have to ask that. Duncan?
So my first question is, why are none of the other intersections that have this same kind of parking situation a concern? And why is this one specifically an issue? Upon speaking to the owners of the Cardinal today, they're concerned because they only have limited parking and this is going to significantly impact their business.
Yep.
The other question I had was, are transports going to be able to make the turn onto Elizabeth Street if we get rid of that section of parking? Because right now they're almost taking the curb as is. And then the last thing is, if we do decide to go ahead with bollards, can we choose a more cosmetically pleasing option? So a flower pot or something other than an object that looks like a pylon.
Okay, I can't answer those questions for what roads people use, but these are, I think, what roads people use, the ones he showed us. The reason for this is if you pull out from the village going north on 38 highway, and there's cars parked in front of the Cardinal, you cannot see around them until you're out into the travel portion of the road. And there's been many close calls. Nikki, you had a situation as well.
Yes, I'd heard many complaints in the village about people trying to pull out there. And then a couple of weeks ago, I was in the company vehicle and trying to pull out, and the police were right in the parking lot of the hotel and watched us almost get T-boned as we pulled out to head north because we had to pull out so far, and they were all parked down in front of the Cardinal. Yes, it was lunchtime. Yes, it's a busy time for there, but the police can't enforce it. I called the OPP and they cannot enforce anybody not parking there unless we have a bylaw that states it, and our bylaw covers many parts of the village of Sharbert Lake, but does not cover 38 highway.
No. Because it was a highway at the time.
Yeah.
That's
I think the real issue though there is speed, right? So it's supposed to be a 40-kilometer-hour zone, the same as it is in the village. And the fact that people are traveling on 38 twice as fast as the posted speed limit is the actual concern. If they were traveling as fast as they were in the remainder of the village, it wouldn't be an issue.
Okay, Bill?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First, 38 is a 50 zone, not a 40 zone. And I'm over 6'2". I drive a high pickup truck, and quite often I have trouble seeing out. So I'm in favor.
And whether you get T-boned at 40 miles per hour or 50 or 60, it doesn't make sense if we can protect people from having fatal accidents there, or not even fatal, but just accidents. It's a bad spot to try and get out. Cindy?
I think if we don't correct the situation too, then we're liable because we let it happen and we didn't do anything about it.
Okay, Philip?
So I know we talked about the turning lane, but there's nothing mentioned about why it wasn't an option. We just decided that we're going to use bollards to solve the problem. And it's not just on 38. I've come to work in the morning and there's people parked on Elizabeth Street going into the Cardinals. So right on the corner.
Yeah. And big trucks will park there because they're just running in for a coffee.
Well, when Duncan was talking about the other section, people are talking about is when you come out of Robert Street. You cannot see coming north or south because of everybody parking along 38 there as well. So that's
Yeah.
another issue too. So
Yeah.
at some point we'd have to.
We need parking lots in Sherbrooke Lake and we need people to use the parking lots that we have.
Absolutely.
Nikki?
Duncan made me think, what's entailed in putting a crosswalk there? So if we incur, the Cardinal doesn't have parking, but there is a nice parking lot at the hotel across the road. What's entailed to put a crosswalk there so that we're not defeating their business, the Cardinal's business?
Well, I'm not so sure that by doing that, you're saying to the hotel people, the Cardinal customers are going to park on your property. I think that would be asking for trouble. Yeah. Okay. Oh, sorry, Dan, go ahead.
I think unless we put something in the road that people can't park there, they would park there no matter what, regardless, unless we put something there, stopping them from parking there.
I was thinking sawhorses with big pieces of wood on them, so the bollards are pretty in comparison to what I had in my mind. Okay, enough discussion on this? All those in favor of the motion? Bless you, Kathy. Carried. And I don't know what you do with bollards in the wintertime.
You take them down.
So what do you do about parking in the wintertime? Put those sawhorses up, I guess. Bill?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think with their new snow blower, the bollards can probably be left up and they can go around it.
Okay, okay, just a question. Okay, let's move on. We've still got another Public Works one here. All right, moved by Philip Smith, seconded by Danny Meeks. Whereas on April 25th, 2023, a notice of motion was brought before Councillor Clegus to reduce the speed limit of Arden Road to 50 kilometers from Price Road to Almond Lane. And whereas on May 23rd, 2023, the bylaw to change the speed limit was deferred to the June 13th meeting with a request for more information from staff and a recommendation. And whereas Public Works staff have reviewed the speed zones in the village of Arden and make a recommendation to support the notice of motion request as per the details in this report. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the speed limit be lowered to 40 kilometers per hour from 100 meters north of Price Road to the current signage approximately 90 meters south of the Trans-Canada Trail, and remove any 50 kilometer per hour zone in the village. So a simple reduction from 60 kilometers to 40 is in place. And further, that council consider passage of the bylaw amendment later in the meeting and allow staff to implement the signage change in a reasonable time frame. Discussion. Bill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's going to be a little long-winded.
Okay.
I disagree with both Councillor Clagus's 50 and Public Works is 40. For decades now, people have been driving the Arden Road at 80 kilometers an hour. And the only reason they do 60 is because that's the condition of the road. And this summer, we're going to turn it back into an 80 kilometer an hour road. If I had my druthers, I'd rather see Arden Road at 70 from 7 right to Willett Lane. Because if we change from 60 to 40 at Price Road, people are going to see this nice, straight, smooth stretch in front of them, and they're not going to slow down. But there's a natural transition at Willett Lane because the road curves to the right on a semi-blind bend, and they are naturally going to slow down and proceed with caution. So I would be okay with 60 from 7 to Willett Lane, but neither 40 nor 50. Thank you.
Okay. Well, there's nobody really to argue with you. Lynn, maybe there is. Lynn.
I'm just going to state again that it is a safety feature to encourage people to slow down. The amount of pedestrian traffic walking along that stretch of the road from Willett out to Price Road is still significant. And I feel going from Price Road all the way into town should be controlled. People may choose not to slow down, but they should. And any encouragement we can give them as a reminder, we should.
Okay. Cindy, do you have something to add?
Just to, when I was working through the bylaw update, when we were preparing the report, we noticed that there wasn't any reduction in our current bylaw right now for the section through that's noted at 40 kilometers. So that's what prompted us to reconsider the change rather than go from 60, 50 to 40, just to do it all as the one speed. So, but regardless of what decision you make, we probably should update the bylaw to include whatever you want going through the village itself, because right now 40 isn't in the bylaw.
And the village is a well built up area. So I don't know how you could take it at 60. It's so built up and windy. Bill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're not talking 60 through the village, because right now it is posted from Willett Lane, Almond Lane to the village at 50.
Use your mic. Okay.
It's posted at 50 at Almond Lane. And then as you round the bend towards the mill pond, it's reduced to 40. But it's apparently, it was never in the bylaws that it could be enforced at 40 through town. And I've had many people in town talk about people speeding through town unsafely.
Okay. Okay. You've heard the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. We don't have to always agree. Yes. All right, we have a motion moved by Danny Meek, seconded by Bill Everett. Whereas council passed bylaw 2023-21, which named a municipal highway Whiskey Street at its April 25th, 2023 council meeting. And whereas a resident on that street has requested council reconsider that name. Now therefore be it resolved that council agree to proceed with option blank outlined in the report. If option 2 is chosen,
You have to select a name.
you have to select a name.
Mhm.
And further, that council selects some name as the name of the street and direct staff to bring back to bring a bylaw back to council on June 27 to amend the bylaw to affect the name change. Discussion. I'll say something. Ethel Wan was probably our first mail delivery person here from way back in probably the early 60s, maybe even before.
40s. Yeah.
But I was giving her the benefit of the doubt. So to call the street Ethel Street, to me is kind of, putting her name out there, and she's lived there for years and years. Bill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And it used to be called Juan Road before amalgamation.
Was it? I didn't know that.
No, I don't know. No, it wasn't. Yeah, it's all, yeah. It didn't have any.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
part of the old road. Okay, so I need somebody to tell me what you want to do here. Do you want to name the street? Ethel Street? Okay, so Dan and Bill, I am putting Ethel Street in here. You're okay with that?
So you're going with option 2. and we'll
Option
name
2?
it. Mhm.
All right. Pardon? Sure.
Bridge was torn down on 38.
Yes.
There used to be a sign right on the road coming in that said dead end on it. The contractor took it down. Then where Kathy lived, that's Mrs. Vaughn's old house.
Yes.
The sign went down the basement there and it never resurfaced. So that was considered a dead end. And from the railroad bed down on north side, I've maintained that road winter and summer as best I could. And I used to do Mrs. Vaughn's in the winter time when the township didn't go. I used to clear, and my kids cleared used to cut her grass, and going down from where there's a hot house down there. I cut the trees down there for about 20 years because she used to like to walk down that path.
But it is a
So
dead,
she-
it is a dead end, right?
The access road that's from the railroad bed going into the swamp, that I maintain that also, like if you go, you'll see the old.
Yeah.
The old wood that I've cut, that the trees fell down and everything, so.
But as far as being a street, it is a dead end.
Yes,
Yes,
it is, but
okay.
the thing is, the sign left, so
So
people.
You'd like that sign back.
asked me, is there a way through? I said, you can walk through, but you can't drive through because of the ditch.
Okay.
Going onto the railroad bed.
We will ask the roads department to find a dead end sign for you because it makes sense.
It
Okay,
Used to be about 30 feet in.
okay. We'll put that on the list for Tyson to have a look at.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I have a motion that says now therefore be it resolved that council agree to proceed with option 2 outlined in the report. And further that council selects Ethel Street as the name for the street and direct staff to bring a bylaw back to council on June 27th to amend bylaw 2023-21 to affect the name change. All those in favor? Carried. All right. Maybe Cindy, if you keep cutting the grass. Okay, pre-application consultation bylaw for planning applications. Moved by Bill Everett and second by Danny Meeks, that the report regarding the new pre-application consultation bylaw for planning applications be received, that the new pre-application consultation bylaw included with this report as attachment 1 be approved by council, and further that the bylaw be presented later in the meeting for all 3 readings. Discussion. Cindy, do you want to say anything about this?
We do have Sonia here on the Zoom for any questions.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay. All right, all those in favor? Carried. Thanks, Sonia. There's no big questions, so it's time to have your dinner.
You're very welcome. Have a good evening, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye. All right. Authorization to install a bench in memory of Bob Harvey in the Fosse Memorial Park. Moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Philip Smith. Whereas the Fosse Memorial Park is considered to be a memorial park for those individuals who have made considerable contribution to the municipality and the residents alike. And whereas Toots Harvey contacted the CAO clerk requesting permission to install a bench in memory of Robert Harvey, Bob, in the Fosse Memorial Park. And whereas Bob has made a considerable contribution to the municipality and to the residents as a local business owner for 50 years, and also served as a council member of council for both Central Frontenac and the former Township of Oso. Now therefore be it resolved that council approve the request from Althea Toots Harvey to install the bench in memory of Bob Harvey in the Fosse Memorial Park, and further that staff work with Mrs. Harvey on where to place the bench in the park. Nice to have places for people to sit and enjoy the flowers and sunshine. All those in favor? Carried. All right. Committees, moved by Philip Smith, seconded by Nikki Gowdy, that the minutes of the Quinte Conservation Authority Board meeting held April 20th, 2023 be received for information. Any comments from the Quinte rep? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Philip Smith, that the minutes of the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority Board meeting held April 27th, 2023 be received for information. Who's the Rideau Valley? Oh, Susan, anything to add? Okay. I'm sure they have. Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Moved by Bill Everett, second by Nikki Gowdy, that the terms of reference for the Septic Reinspection Committee be hereby received and approved, and that the following committee members for this committee be confirmed: Susan Irwin, Bill Everett, Nikki Gowdy, Jim McIntosh, Art Dunham, and Ken Waller. And further that the minutes of the March 20th, 2023 Septic Reinspection Committee be received for information. Any questions or comments from anyone? Philip.
A long time ago, when we instituted the septic reinspection, one of the things I remember being a big issue was the affordability aspect. And that seems to have been dropped every time we move forward with it, and how we deal with affordability of any condemned systems in the municipality. So yeah, I didn't see it in the terms of reference, if there's any reference to affordability. And I know that was a big part of.
You're talking about a grant program
This,
to help someone who can't
so
afford.
when we first moved and implemented the septic reinspection program, it wasn't called a grant program. You know, to get it off the ground, it was just kind of deferred even at that time, but it was to be looked at in the future.
Yeah. Susan?
Thank you, Philip. And thank you, Madam Mayor. Looking at the purpose of the committee on the terms of reference, we are looking at options for exploring the program delivery to maximize efficiencies, and we're to critically assess practicalities and costs associated with enforcement. And so we have had a follow-up meeting that costs were debated, and it will come back to council for consideration. We have asked Andy Dillon to come forward with options for us, because it's all mixed up with changing the part 8 and how busy everybody is going to be. And so we need to know, can we maintain the program as it is? Do we need to look at other options?
It hasn't been, but I do remember one of the things we talked about is that we need to be a needs tested program. Not free for all.
Wasn't for, I think it makes sense. So.
It's on the radar.
And if I could just add that at present, at least, the committee is very much in favor of a mandatory reinspection, but as I say, we're looking at all options.
All those in favor of the motion? Here. By Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Philip Smith, that the minutes from the May 10th, 2023 Waste and Recycling Committee be received for information. Any questions or comments on this, Nikki?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want some clarification. I had a resident that approached me about the hazardous waste people. So I had felt that, I had thought that we decided during budget talks that the hazardous waste was going to be at the Golden site. And the residents concerned because they had been told it's going to be at Went Road. So I'm just looking for clarity.
Bill?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The hazardous waste depot is going in at the OSO site. It's more central to the community as a whole than Golden. And there's also more viable space to set it up.
Okay, anything else? All those in favor? Here. Right, moved by Philip Smith, seconded by Nikki Gaddy, that the minutes of the May 10th, 2023 Economic Development Committee meeting be received for information. Discussion, comments? Lynn?
I was just wondering if I can just give a quick brief summary of what we're working on. We have three top priorities that we're starting with on the Economic Development Committee, and the minutes may or may not have laid that out. Number one, we're currently working on a mapping project for Central Frontenac. And we hope to get that done very quickly, and out to places like the provincial parks and the tourism. And number two, we're creating a plan to visit and economically understand all 4 districts within Central Frontenac to be inclusive of all of Central Frontenac. And our third priority is to work on the Charbot Lake downtown revitalization implementation. So that's our 3 top priorities. Yes.
All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Okay. Now we have the District 4 Rec Committee, FA. Moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Philip Smith. Whereas District 4 Recreation Committee is looking to apply for a grant from the Ontario Trillium Foundation to upgrade the Parham Fairgrounds as well as the Titchburn Rink and Warming Hut. And whereas Ontario Trillium is accepting applications for capital funding from $10,000 to $150,000 with a deadline of June 14th, 2023 at 5 p.m. And whereas the application has been submitted through the municipality and staff are willing to work with them and complete it through the OTF portal by the deadline. And whereas staff are requesting approval from council to apply for the grant on behalf of the District 4 Recreation Committee in the amount of $150,000. And whereas the total cost of the project is $183,216, less $33,216, which will be coming from District 4 Recreation Committee funds. Now, therefore, be it resolved that council supports the project and approves staff submitting the grant application to the Ontario Trillium Foundation. Discussion. Any questions or comments? Duncan.
They did a fantastic job. That's quite an opportunity, it sounds like.
Was instrumental in writing the grant. So I'd like to give kudos to Sarah, and Michael and Noah at the township are doing the transfer over of it as well. What the plan is with that 183,000 is the removal of what is at the Titchburn Rink for boards, the installation as per the engineered drawings of floating boards. So it'll be the purchase of the posts, the installation of the posts, the new fabricated boards that will float on the swamp surface there. We're putting in new light, we're moving the poles that the Conservation Authority had deemed needed to be removed. We're putting in new LED lighting. At the Ball Diamond, we're putting in brand new LED lighting. We're putting up a net around the backstop for safety reasons for pop flies. We're putting in a second pickleball court. We are paving both pickleball courts and the basketball court. I don't think I missed. I think that covers $183,216.
Okay. All right.
But the grant's here if anybody wants to look at it.
Okay. All those in favor? Carried. Tomorrow's the deadline. All right, all right. So a delegation was to be Gary Giller from the Heritage Railway Museum about garbage collection. And Bill Everett is going to do that presentation on behalf of the group. Bill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, unfortunately, due to the council time change, Mr. Giller is unable to attend tonight. And his was not so much a presentation, but a request from council. They have lost their waste pickup services for the train museum. And they were hoping to get on board with the municipal waste pickup station. Service, sorry. Thank you.
Okay. This is a separate committee. They are not a committee of council. So that's, we don't do pickups if it's not our rec committee areas. So I don't know what you'd want to do. Bill did say there is an option that's rather inexpensive for them that he can work on. So the motion doesn't really talk about garbage. It just talks about accepting the presentation. Now, there was also someplace I read, they need a letter for the pick and push licensed event. Do we have? Where did I read that? Maybe I read that on Facebook. I'm not sure, but it is in there. Okay. Okay. That would have, I'm sure, been part of his presentation. Philip.
Just out of curiosity, what do they currently do for waste pickup and what would the cost have been for that? Because my thought was, if they want the municipality to do that, is that something that can be billed back if you have to avoid what the cost of it?
Bill.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Councilor Smith. Gary Ferguson, who's been picking up garbage for the last 30, 40 years, is slowing down and they stopped picking them up. The price was not excessive and they've already been offered a similar, if not lower price for the summer season. And if we were to bill it back to them through the cost of it would cost a lot more.
Yes. Okay, so the motion that is before us is that Philip Smith and Nikki Gowdy, that council received the presentation on behalf of Gary Giller and the Charlotte Lake Heritage Railway Association. All those in favor? Carried. I'm just going to put on behalf of. Yeah, I think you can just tell them verbally that we are not up for picking up the garbage. Okay. All right, correspondence. Wow, there's a lot of it. Moved by Susan Irwin and seconded by Lynn Clakus, that the following correspondence be received and filed, and it's 2 pages, 34 different pieces of correspondence. Any discussion on any of those? Yes, Nikki.
I was just wondering if anything had, thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just wondering if anything had been done about the concern about lack of washrooms at Charlotte Lakes ball field. There was a letter in our package, so it's staff taking that on.
Yeah, I will speak to Tyson in regards to that. To make sure that either because when the canteen's not open, the washrooms are not available. And certainly we'll deal with that for sure.
It's a matter of keys to open it and close it. But whoever opens it needs to be responsible for closing it too. Anyway, we'll leave that with staff to get fixed. Okay.
Because the people from not in the area.
Who sent that? Why porta potties? We have bathrooms there. Sorry, Dan?
If the coaches all have keys, then when the ball game's on, they can just open the washrooms, that's what we do in our area. So,
Would make sense.
the coaches all have keys.
Nikki?
That's exactly what happens in Parham, that they open them, the coach opens the bathroom and then it's locked.
There you go. There's a solution right there. As well as rec committees that are going to be running the canteen need to have keys. Okay, all those in favor of accepting the correspondence? Carried. Great. We have a motion. Women of Ontario say no. Moved by Lynn Clegg, second by Susan Irwin. Whereas all Ontarians deserve and expect a safe and respectful workplace. Whereas municipal governments, as the democratic institutions most directly engaged with Ontarians, need respectful discourse. Whereas several incidents in recent years of disrespectful behavior and workplace harassment have occurred amongst members of municipal council. Whereas these incidences seriously and negatively affect the people involved and lower public perceptions of local governments. Whereas municipal codes of conduct are helpful tools to set expectations of council member behavior. Whereas municipal governments do not have the necessary tools to adequately enforce compliance with municipal codes of conduct. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Township of Central Frontenac supports the call of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario for the Government of Ontario to introduce legislation to strengthen municipal codes of conduct and compliance with them in consultation with municipal governments. Also, be it resolved that the legislation encompass the Association of Municipalities recommendations for updating municipal codes of conduct to account for workplace safety and harassment, creating a flexible administrative penalty regime adapted to the local economic and financial circumstances of the municipalities across Ontario, increasing training of municipal integrity commissioners to enhance consistency of investigations and recommendations across the province, allowing municipalities to apply to a member of the judiciary to remove a sitting member if recommended through the report of a municipal integrity commissioner, prohibit a member so removed from sitting for election in the term of removal and the subsequent term of office. Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
There was a private member's bill that was put forward and it was not passed. So now we're just asking for new legislation. And so I'm in favor of the motion, but I wouldn't hold my breath.
It has a long way to go, but some support are helpful. Yeah. Okay, all those in favor? Carry. We're getting there. All right, bylaws, moved by Susan Irwin, second by Lynn Cleggus, that bylaw 2023-32, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2020-43, as amended to create updated speed zones within the Township of Central Frontenac, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 23rd day of May, 2023. Oh, this 13th day of June, thank you. See, that code doesn't have you down. Okay, so I changed that to this 13th day of June, 2023. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Lynn, seconded by Susan, that bylaw 2023-33 being a pre-application consultation bylaw be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 13th day of June, 2023. All those in favor? Carried. New or other business. This is from the Heritage Railway Museum Caboose 2023. Moved by Lynn and seconded by Susan, that council support. Oh, sorry. I ignored the agenda and just get going with the motions in front of me. Sorry. Okay, any notice of motion?
No, but there is giving.
Giving notice of motion, we have two.
Yes, we do, Madam Mayor.
Do I read them?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The Council of Central Frontenac put a hold on the sale of the old Tension Brook School property located on Long Lake Road until the council completes our strategic plan exercise and set out priorities for the next 3.5 years. I believe that there is an appetite for the development of that site as an addition to our township. That's the first one. Second one by Councillor Nikki Gowdy. I give notice of motion that I would like to see staff prepare the breakdown and costing of having an in-house planner for the township rather than subcontracting the planning services out to the county. We currently have a backlog in the planning department, and only having planning staff on site one day of the week is not helping to alleviate this issue. I would like to see the difference in cost between the two options and for it to be considered before we start the budget process in October. So those motions will come forward next time. And will there be a staff report with them?
Yes, and Councillor Gowdy also has the opportunity to put a reporter or to speak further to them.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So now we're at new or other business. All right. Moved by Lynn and seconded by Susan, that council support the Caboose Fest 2023 request to host a licensed event at the Central Frontenac Heritage Railway Park area on July 29th, 2023, and declare this event to be of municipal significance. And further, that the CAO clerk be authorized to sign a letter of support or other documentation that may be required from Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario. And this is, they have had a little beer tent that was fenced off last year. I think Kick and Push was there. Yeah. Okay, all those in favor? Carried. And if I remember correctly, last year it was about 40 degrees at that. Yes. Yeah. Okay, now we are at the closed session. Yes.
Under other, I would just like to add, it was brought to my attention today from the Anglican Church in Parham that there is they would like the possibility to speak, whether it be at this meeting or at the next meeting, about moving the monument that we had agreed upon and having it put on the Anglican property.
I think that should go through Tyson because he was involved in meeting with Mark and doing whatever was going to be done.
So should they ask to be a delegation though
Yes.
to come forward with their
Yes.
current request?
And they should probably talk to Tyson as well so that he can do a report the same time so that we can make some decisions.
Okay. So
Okay,
Arlene, Mark, talk to Tyson and we'll get you on the next agenda.
okay. All right. So we're moving into closed session. Have a motion moved by Susan and seconded by Lynn that council move into closed session pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act to discuss A, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, 239(2)B, deputy fire chief position, and personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, section 239(2)B, fire chief. All those in favor? Carried. Okay. We'll take a 5-minute break just to give people a chance to leave and us to stretch our legs.